Drop it. Let's see if your precious street angel is really as honest as you think. Eleanor Price's voice was smooth, almost playful, but Alexander Grant could hear the steel beneath it. They were standing on the edge of a busy downtown street, the air buzzing with car horns and the scent of roasted chestnuts from a vendor nearby. Just 20 feet ahead, a boy no older than 11 sat against a brick wall, his head tilted slightly as if listening to a secret only he could hear. Alexander's gaze softened at the sight of him. Torn jacket, threadbare sneakers, a battered tin can by his side. He'd passed the boy a few times over the last week, always tempted to stop, to help, but something in the boy's stillness kept him at a distance, as if the child lived in a world entirely separate from the rushing crowd. "You're serious?" Alexander asked, glancing at Eleanor. "Dead serious," she replied, holding out his leather wallet. $2,500 inside. Drop it in front of him, keep walking, and we'll watch what he does. If he's honest, he'll give it back. If not, you'll finally see the truth about these street kids you keep romanticizing." Alexander hesitated. The weight of the wallet in his hand felt heavier than usual. It wasn't just the money. It was the test itself, the idea of setting a trap for a child. Still, Eleanor's expectant stare pushed him forward. As they approached, the boy's eyes caught Alexander's attention. Milky white, unfocused. He was blind. The realization hit Alexander like a jolt. His steps faltered. "Go on," Eleanor urged in a low voice. Alexander's heart pounded. He loosened his grip and the wallet slipped from his fingers, landing softly on the pavement near the boy's feet. If you saw a blind homeless child pick up a wallet stuffed with cash, what would you expect them to do? Alexander's pulse quickened as he and Eleanor moved past the boy, pretending not to notice him. The sound of the wallet hitting the ground had been subtle, but the boy's head turned instantly toward it, his cloudy eyes searching for a sound rather than a sight. His small hands reached out, fingertips brushing the cold pavement until they touched the leather. He picked it up with a gentleness that made Alexander's throat tighten, as if he feared the object might break. "Excuse me," the boy called, his voice clear and earnest, carrying over the noise of the street. "Someone dropped their wallet. Does anyone hear me?" People passed by without so much as a glance, their eyes fixed on their phones or the ground ahead. The boy called again, louder this time, his voice cutting through the city's chaos. "Please, I found a wallet. I can't see you, but if it's yours, please come back." Eleanor's lips curled in a smirk. "Give him time. He'll give up and pocket it." But Alexander saw something in the boy's face that didn't match Eleanor's cynicism. 10 minutes passed, the boy still holding the wallet aloft, still calling out even as the muscles in his thin arms began to tremble. When no one came, he lowered it carefully, set it beside his cardboard sign that read in uneven letters, "Please help. I can't see, but I can hear kindness," then sat back down, his small frame hunched against the cold wall. Alexander's chest ached. This was no act. He watched as the boy eventually picked up the wallet again, not to open it for himself, but to run his fingers lightly over the edges, counting the bills by touch as if to confirm nothing was missing. Then, with slow, cautious steps, he stood and began moving along the wall toward a corner store, one hand trailing along the bricks for guidance. Alexander and Eleanor followed at a distance, peering through the shop window as the boy approached the counter and spoke to a kindly-looking older woman. She opened the wallet, glanced at the thick stack of cash, then looked at the boy with visible surprise. After a brief exchange, she wrote something on a slip of paper and handed it to him. The boy folded it carefully, tucking it into his pocket before leaving, without the wallet. "He sold it," Eleanor whispered smugly. "Probably got a few bucks for it." But Alexander's gut told him otherwise. Back at his spot on the sidewalk, the boy sat down and pulled the folded paper from his pocket, holding it gently in both hands, though he couldn't read it. Alexander felt a surge of curiosity and something deeper, an unshakable pull toward this child. Without a word to Eleanor, he stepped forwards, each stride bringing him closer to the truth about the boy who couldn't see. Alexander knelt down slowly so as not to startle the boy, his shadow falling across the patch of pavement where the child sat. "Hi there," he said gently, his voice low and warm. "I think you might have found something that belongs to me." The boy's head turned toward the sound, and for a split second, Alexander's breath caught. Up close, he could see the delicate shape of the boy's features, the curve of his nose, the faint cleft in his chin, the way his mouth lifted slightly at the corners, even in stillness. It was like looking into a memory made flesh. "Oh, sir," the boy said, his voice brightening. "Did you get your wallet back? I gave it to the nice lady in the store. She promised to keep it safe until you came." Alexander nodded, momentarily forgetting the boy couldn't see the gesture. "Yes, I did. Thank you. What's your name?" "Liam," he replied without hesitation. Alexander felt the name strike him strangely, but something deeper pressed in his chest. "Liam, how old are you?" "I think I'm about 10, the boy answered, his tone uncertain. "I don't remember exactly. The woman who used to take care of me said I was born when the leaves turned red and gold. She said my birthday was October 15th. The world seemed to tilt beneath Alexander. October 15th, the same day his son Noah had been born. The same child who, according to the hospital 20 years ago, had died in a tragic accident. His heart thundered as fragments of that day came back. The confusion, the hurried paperwork, his late wife Julia's mother, Margaret, insisting they not see the body. He had buried the memory under layers of grief. But now, staring at Liam, every instinct screamed that this was not coincidence. "Do you remember your parents?" Alexander asked, forcing the question past the lump in his throat. Liam's small hands fidgeted in his lap. "Not really. The lady told me my real parents didn't want me because I can't see. She said I was too much trouble. She left me at a place with other kids, but they weren't nice. So I ran away." Alexander swallowed hard, his vision blurring with the weight of what he was hearing. The shape of the boy's face, the gentle cadence of his speech, even the tilt of his head. It was all Noah. "Liam," he whispered, "has anyone ever told you that you look like someone else?" The boy smiled faintly. "Once a man at a soup kitchen said I looked like his nephew when he was little." "Why?" Alexander wanted to answer, to tell him everything, but the truth felt too enormous to drop into this fragile moment. "Because," he said instead, his voice trembling, "you remind me of someone I loved very much." For the first time in years, Alexander felt a fragile, dangerous thing take root in his chest. Hope. Alexander stood there, still crouched in front of Liam, his mind spinning with memories he thought had been buried for good. The noise of the street faded to a dull hum as he studied the boy's face, every small detail echoing the image of his lost son. He forced himself to speak calmly, not wanting to frighten him. "Liam, would you mind if I introduced you to a friend of mine? He's a doctor, a very kind man." The boy hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "If you think it's okay, sir." Alexander rose to his feet, pulling his phone from his pocket. His hands were trembling as he dialed Dr. Samuel Ortiz, the physician who had stood by him during Julia's final illness and had been there on the day they were told Noah was gone. "Samuel, I need you downtown immediately," he said without preamble. "Bring your rapid DNA kit." There was a brief pause on the other end. "Alexander, are you saying what I think you're saying?" Alexander's voice tightened. "Just come, please." As he ended the call, he glanced over his shoulder to see Eleanor leaning against a lamppost, her arms crossed, watching them with an expression he couldn't quite read. Her usual sharp smile was missing, replaced by something guarded, almost calculating. 20 minutes later, Samuel arrived, carrying a small case. He knelt to Liam's level, his warm voice putting the boy instantly at ease. "This won't hurt at all. Just a quick swab inside your cheek," he explained. Liam sat still, trusting, as the test was done. "Results in about an hour," Samuel said quietly to Alexander as he packed away the kit. "But I have to tell you, just looking at him—" He trailed off, letting the implication hang. Alexander's chest ached. The weight felt unbearable. He turned to find Eleanor no longer by the lamppost but a few steps away, speaking quickly into her phone with her back turned. He caught fragments, words like, "found him and need to act fast." When she noticed his eyes on her, she ended the call abruptly, forcing a thin smile. "Just work," she said lightly, but the edge in her tone told him it was a lie. As the hour crawled by, Alexander found himself pacing the sidewalk, Liam quietly sitting on the low stone wall nearby, humming softly under his breath. Samuel returned, the small testing device in hand, his face pale. "It's a 99.8% match," he said simply. The words hit Alexander like a physical blow. He looked at Liam, Noah, and for a moment couldn't speak. His son was alive. Before he could gather his thoughts, Liam tilted his head. "Sir, are you okay? Your heart's beating really fast." Alexander swallowed hard, trying to steady himself. "I'm more than okay. I think—" He stopped when he noticed Eleanor's sudden stillness, the way her eyes flickered between him and Samuel. It was then he understood. She'd known, or at least suspected. His mind replayed every moment of their relationship, the way she'd subtly discouraged his charity work, steered him away from certain parts of the city, kept him too busy to follow his instincts. He stepped closer, his voice low and sharp. "Who were you talking to earlier?" Eleanor's smile didn't reach her eyes. "You're imagining things, Alex. Don't let emotions cloud your judgment." But Alexander saw the tension in her jaw, the faint glimmer of fear. He didn't push further. Not yet. If she was connected to whoever had taken Noah from him all those years ago, he needed proof. He turned back to his son, crouching down to meet his unseeing gaze. "Liam, Noah, we're going to figure everything out. You're safe now." But deep inside, Alexander knew safety was an illusion. In the moment Eleanor slipped away from his sight, the real danger would begin. Alexander couldn't shake the image of Eleanor on the phone, her voice low and urgent, her posture rigid like someone carrying out orders. Samuel had left to secure the DNA results in his office, promising to file the paperwork discreetly, and Alexander used the moment to take Liam to a nearby cafe. The boy sat quietly, sipping hot chocolate with both hands wrapped around the cup, a faint smile on his lips, as if the warmth itself was a rare luxury. Alexander watched him, his chest tightening with every small reminder of the child he'd thought was gone forever. But his moment of peace shattered when he spotted Eleanor across the street, ducking into a narrow alley. His instinct screamed. He told Liam he'd be back in a moment, then slipped outside and moved quickly toward the alley entrance. Staying in the shadows, he listened. Eleanor's voice was sharp now, stripped of its usual sweetness. "Yes, I'm certain. It's him. The test confirmed it." A pause. "We can't wait. He's already too attached. If we give them more time together, pulling him away will be harder." Another pause, then a low female voice on the other end, cold and commanding. Alexander's blood ran cold at the familiarity. It was Margaret Whitfield, Julia's mother. "I told you 20 years ago this would be a problem," Margaret said. "We removed him for a reason. Blind, weak, a drain on everything. Now he's back, and if Alexander changes his will, that boy inherits everything Julia left. We can't allow it." Eleanor's voice lowered. "I'll get him alone. You handle the rest." Margaret's reply was ice. "Do it tonight." Alexander's pulse hammered in his ears. He slipped back to the cafe before Eleanor emerged, forcing himself into his seat as if nothing had happened. Liam tilted his head when Alexander returned. "You sound upset," the boy said softly. "Your breathing's different." Alexander managed a smile, though his stomach churned, just stepped outside. "It's nothing you need to worry about right now." Minutes later, Eleanor walked in, her expression bright and casual, though her eyes darted between them. "How about we all take a walk later?" she suggested. "Fresh air will do us good." Alexander met her gaze evenly. "Maybe, but not tonight." "Liam's tired." She shrugged, but there was a flicker of frustration she didn't bother to hide. That night, after Eleanor left claiming she had errands, Alexander called Samuel. "I overheard them," he said, voice tight. "It's Margaret. She's behind it all. She wants Liam gone. Again. Eleanor's helping her." Samuel was silent for a moment. "Alex, if that's true, you can't let him out of your sight. Not for a second." Alexander's eyes drifted to the couch where Liam slept, curled under a blanket, his breathing slow and even. The thought of losing him again lit a fire in Alexander's chest, burning away the last remnants of doubt. He whispered into the phone, "I won't. Not ever again." But in the silence of his apartment, with the city's hum muffled by thick glass windows, Alexander knew the game had just changed. Eleanor and Margaret weren't going to wait. They were going to make their move soon, and this time he'd be ready. The next morning, Alexander woke before sunrise, the city still wrapped in a pale blue haze. Liam was asleep in the guest room, his small frame barely making a dent in the heavy blankets, his breathing soft and steady. Alexander stood in the doorway for a long time, a silent promise burning in his chest that no one would ever take this boy from him again. By mid-morning, Samuel arrived with the rapid DNA results in an envelope. Though Alexander already knew what they would say, still the printed words, 99.7% probability of biological relationship, made his hands tremble. He'd spent 20 years thinking his son was buried in a grave that, now he realized, had probably never held him. Samuel was in the middle of warning him to contact the authorities about Margaret when Alexander's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Enjoy your time while you can. Sunset ends it." His jaw tightened, but he didn't tell Samuel. He needed proof before going to the police. Instead, he decided to keep Liam close, planning a quiet day indoors. But by early afternoon, Liam's face lit up when he asked, "Can we go to the park? I miss feeling the grass under my hands." Alexander hesitated, remembering Eleanor's fresh air suggestion from the day before. But the boy's hopeful smile broke through his defenses. "Only if I'm with you every second," Alexander said, and Liam nodded solemnly. They took the short walk to Riverside Park, moving slowly so Liam could touch the rough bark of the trees and listen to the rush of water from the nearby fountain. For a moment, Alexander let himself believe it was safe, but then Liam's head tilted sharply. "Do you hear that?" he whispered. "Two sets of footsteps. Heavy. They're trying not to be loud." Alexander turned subtly, spotting two men in dark jackets approaching from opposite directions. His pulse spiked. He leaned down. "We're leaving. Now!" They moved quickly toward the park's exit, but the men matched their pace, closing the distance. Alexander reached the street and waved for a cab, but before one could stop, a black van screeched to a halt in front of them. The side door flew open and a man with a scar across his jaw lunged out, reaching for Liam. Alexander shoved the boy behind him, swinging hard with his fists, connecting with the man's shoulder. "Run!" he shouted, pushing Liam toward the crowded sidewalk. Liam stumbled, then found his rhythm, his hands skimming the rail of a nearby path for guidance. But another man cut them off, grabbing Liam's arm. Alexander roared and barreled into him, knocking them both to the ground. People in the park began shouting, pulling out phones, some filming, others yelling for help. A police siren wailed faintly in the distance, growing louder. One of the attackers cursed and yelled to the others, "Abort! Too many eyes!" They scrambled back into the van, tires squealing as it tore away. Alexander pulled Liam into his arms, his heart pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. "Are you hurt?" he asked, scanning the boy for injuries. "No," Liam whispered, his voice shaking. "But they would have taken me if you weren't here." Alexander's arms tightened around him. "I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." Samuel arrived minutes later, breathless after racing from his office when a bystander had called him about the attack. "That wasn't random," he said grimly. "They'll try again." Alexander nodded, his eyes hard as steel. "Then next time, we'll be ready." As they walked home surrounded by police escort, Alexander felt the weight of the war he'd just entered. Not over money, not even over the truth, but over the life of the boy who had just called him father for the first time in 2 decades. That night, Alexander stood at the window of his penthouse, the city lights reflecting off the glass like scattered stars. Liam was curled up on the couch, still wearing the oversized hoodie Alexander had bought him earlier, his hair damp from a long, hot shower. The police had taken statements, promised increased patrols, and assured him that an arrest warrant for Margaret was in motion. But Alexander knew this wasn't truly over until she was behind bars. Samuel came by with more documents, bank records proving Margaret had siphoned millions from Alexander's accounts, adoption papers she'd forged, and evidence linking her to Eleanor's betrayal. The moment Alexander saw the signature, he felt a fire ignite in his chest. This wasn't just about the past anymore. It was about ensuring no other child would suffer because of her greed. The next morning, Margaret was arrested at her country estate, furious and unrepentant. Eleanor, too, was in custody, her eyes full of venom when she was led past Alexander and Liam outside the courthouse. "This changes nothing," she hissed, but Alexander only held Liam closer. "It changes everything," he said. Weeks later, the first surgery on Liam's eyes was complete. The doctors said it would take time, but there was hope, real hope, that he would see again. The day he could finally distinguish Alexander's face from the blur, he smiled in a way that broke and healed Alexander's heart all at once. 6 months later, the Liam Grant Foundation for Homeless Children opened its doors downtown, funded entirely from the recovered money. Liam stood at the podium beside Alexander, his small hand gripping his father's. "I once thought I didn't have a family," he told the crowd, his voice steady. "But now I know family isn't just blood. It's the people who never give up on you." Alexander's throat tightened as applause filled the room. That night, as they walked home under the city's glittering skyline, Liam whispered, "You're never letting me go, right?" Alexander smiled, pulling him into a hug. "Forever and always, son." And somewhere in the distance, the world felt just a little safer. If you had one chance to reunite with someone you thought you'd lost forever, what would you say first?